Today we're going to be ranking all of the Valorant agents based on how viable they are in ranked. This is not based on pro play or coordinated play or scrims or custom games or anything like that. This is simply for solo queue ranked. We're gonna start off with Brim. Brim, I'm gonna put in C. I think he needs a bit of a buff. He's very underwhelming on most of the maps, and he's supposed to be like that. He's the starter character, the introductory to controllers. You get him at the beginning of the game, but I think maybe like a second stim or like a rework to the stim or something like that. Maybe just his smokes lasting a little bit longer. He could really help from that because right now his only maps are Fracture and Bind, to be honest. And even on Bind, Harbor is starting to take some of his viability away. Um, but he's pretty good. He needs a little bit of a buff. Next is Harbor. I think Harbor is gonna be in B tier. If you put the work into Harbor, he can be very good, but most people aren't gonna do that, especially for ranked. So I think he's B tier. Viper, Viper is S tier. Viper is a very good character in ranked. She's very oppressive and she can have a lot of impact, especially with her lurks. I thought her new nerf by decreasing the amount of fuel she gets back would hurt her a lot, but it doesn't really matter that much, to be honest, in the grand scheme of things. Next, we have Astra. Astra is an F tier agent in ranked. She is terrible. There is no reason to pick Astra. Oh, I forgot about Omen. There's no reason to pick Astra in ranked. She requires a lot of coordination to play. She requires good util, good comms, and you're not going to get any of that in ranked. So there's just simply no reason to play her. And last we have Omen. I think Omen is for ranked he is S tier. For pro play he is definitely A, but this is ranked, so he's definitely S tier in ranked. His blind is very good when you use it correctly. The recharging smokes are really good, and he allows you to make those aggressive solo plays that you kind of need to make in ranked in order to have high impact. He's definitely one of the easier controllers to play too, so he's got that going for him. And he's just kind of like a secondary duelist in ranked. I'm not gonna lie. All right, starting off the Sentinel class, we have Killjoy. Killjoy is an S tier agent right now, especially in ranked. She can be very oppressive with her mollies and her alarm bot. You can do lots of different microwave setups. You get pretty much free kills in ranked, especially with how uncoordinated people can be. If you have decent setups, then you will have a very high impact, especially with the lockdown. Lockdown is one of the best ultimates in the game right now. Even for 8 cost, you get free control of a site, free retake, free execute. There's so much usage for it, so many different ways to use it. She's just so good right now. Next we have Sage. Sage in ranked is an A tier agent. I think that Sage, she's good in ranked, especially in the lower ranks, because the wall is most people don't really know how to deal with it, and the wall and the slow, and people will just try to push through it, especially in like plat and below. People just try to walk through it, and they're just free kills. But as soon as you get above diamond, I think she goes down to B and C. But majority of people are below diamond, so I'll believe in her A. But as soon as she goes above diamond, then she's a lot worse because people will just they're much better at dealing with it. And that can be said for most agents, but I feel like Sage is it's very apparent when you have a Sage. Next we have Chamber. I actually Chamber's like in between. I'm gonna put him at the top of C because he's at the top of C, the bottom of B right now. Because he can be very good in ranked on defense. He can be very good with his operator, his gun, his TP, his trip. They're all very defender util. But in attack, he's just a guy with a gun. There's nothing special about him. His trip isn't good, especially with that range. His trip isn't that useful. His TP is like, maybe in post plant it's okay. Maybe if you want to peek an angle, but that's like you don't really get to use it properly on attack anymore, especially with the longer cooldown and only having one of them. He's very good on defense, but he's very bad on attack. Next we have Cypher. I think that Cypher in ranked is definitely an A tier. He's kind of like Harp Chamber. He's a little bit in between. I'll put him in. I don't know. I feel like having Sage high up would be bad. A good Cypher with those kill trips and knowing how to play him correctly with the aggressive kill trips and the cages and all that, he can be very oppressive. A good Cypher is really hard to play against, especially in ranked when people are just 5 stack A, 5 stack B, over and over. Having a good Cypher with those trips, it's almost like you get 2 free kills every round if they're just rushing your site. But I think he could use a little bit of buff for pro play, but in ranked, I think he's very good. Next up, we have Deadlock. I think Deadlock needs a buff. I'm gonna be honest. She is one of the most underwhelming characters in the game right now. I think that the other agents in Killjoy and Cypher, Killjoy has her turret and her alarm bot for really easy map control. Cypher has the kill trips and his tripwires that he can get free kills with if they push your site. And they're both creative and they're both very interesting. And Killjoy Deadlock, I mean, is very underwhelming. I feel like the traps are kind of easy to play around. Like, I don't know, the wall is one of the only like really good parts of her kit, but the rest is the wall and her ult are pretty good, but the rest is just kind of bad. It's really underwhelming. I think that she could use a buff, maybe like I don't know. I think maybe even like just making her like concuss bigger or like make it pop faster or something, just to like increase her viability there because she doesn't really have like a niche right now. Because Killjoy has like the map control niche, Cypher has the kill trips and his cam and all that, his info, and Sage has the wall and plant, especially on maps like Bind and Icebox. But like Deadlock is just kind of like she's just kind of there. She doesn't really have like a spot. All right, and now we come to our initiators. First off, Sova. Sova, Sova in ranked, very good. He's just good. A good Sova is very good. He is kind of map dependent, like Sova on split, not happening. But, actually, he's A tier. I'll put him in A tier. He's not quite on the level of these agents of how good they can be in ranked, but a good Sova will be very very hard to play around. All right, now we come to Skye. Skye is going to be the first agent in S plus. I think that Skye needs a nerf. Her flashes are they're essentially, you can play them like Phoenix flashes, but better. And you can flash for your team like KO, but better and easier. And she has a dog, which is just a Sova drone, but better. And her ultimate is completely broken. You just get 3 free positions of the enemies for only 7. I think that she could either use maybe like, I don't know, maybe decreasing the range of her ult or increasing her ult to 8 or nerfing her flash a little bit or nerfing her dog a little bit. Something like that, because she's just so good on so many maps right now that you can just play her wherever, whenever, and you don't have to be like, you don't have to even be any good at her. Like, she's very easy to play and she's very good. Next we come to Gekko. Gekko's in the middle of C right now. I'll put him there. He needs a buff. He's kind of underwhelming. He was marketed by Riot as this agent, and you can flash 10 times around and stuff like that. But like, you can't really. His flash isn't that good. Like, you can use it 10 times, but it's pretty bad. And it's just like, he needs a little bit of. He needs something. He doesn't need a major buff, but he just needs something. Because he doesn't really have a spot. He's kind of like a Breach, but worse. Like, he doesn't have that info. Like, the only info he really has as an initiator is his ultimate and his flash. And I guess his ult's very good. But his flash is just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like maybe making it go a little bit faster, making the goop be a little bit more like, making the goop go up faster. Something like that. He just needs something better with his flash, because it's not useful right now. Next we come to Breach. Breach Breach in ranked, I think, is it's kind of a hot take, but in ranked he's S. In ranked, you can in ranked you're 5 stacking A, 5 stacking B, like 90% of the rounds. And Breach is very good at that. You stun, you flash, you aftershock, you flash again, you ult it. He's very good at those fast, big team fights. In pro play, however, he's very bad because he doesn't have any info. But in ranked, you don't need the info. You can just push the site. You can just run it down. So for that reason, I think he's very good in ranked. Next we have KO. KO, hot take. He's an F tier. He's not any good in ranked. His flash for his team, you can't flash for your team in ranked. There's no coordination. His knife is okay. It's not great. His ult's pretty bad, honestly, in ranked. I mean, it's okay, but it's not anything like crazy. It feels kind of underwhelming for an ultimate. His nade is pretty bad. Probably one of the worst nades in the game. It's over very quickly. The only real use for it is like clearing corners. His right click flash, now that it's down to like 1 second or whatever it is, 1.25, is you can't flash for yourself that easily. He's just not good. And to finish up the initiator class, we have Fade. Fade and Sova are like, they're hand in hand. It's kind of a map thing where so a Sova map bind and or not Sova maps, I mean, like bind and split are going to be Fade maps and vice versa. But they can be swapped out pretty easily. I think Fade is arguably a little bit better. Sova is a little bit more default with his 2 shocks, his drone, his big drone, his dart. But Fade is the 2 dogs, the C's, the I is very... It's kind of like Breach in a sense, but with info instead of flashes and concusses. Like she's very fast. She's very aggressive, and that's very good in ranked when you're just 5-stacking the site 90% of the time. Next is Jett. Jett is S+ in ranked. She's just the GOAT of duelists in ranked. I don't think she needs a nerf though. I think that if you nerfed her, then actually, I don't know. She could use a nerf to make so maybe like a Phoenix and a Neon a little bit more viable, because she's played so much. It's kind of ridiculous. Because now that Chamber is in C tier, she's the only agent that can op realistically. She is very aggressive. She can take those aggressive peaks, which so many people in ranked like to do. And I think she might need a bit of a nerf, but I don't know how to nerf her to make her like not terrible. I don't know. I think that maybe instead of nerfing Jett, they should buff Neon, which I'll get on next. And now we come to Neon. I think that Neon... I don't know. Neon's okay. Neon, actually, I don't know. She's kind of in the middle. She's like Chamber. She's kind of a B- agent. I'll put her in the bottom of B, though. But she's okay. I mean, she's kind of like a Jett, but like not a Jett. Like she's good at taking space, but if you're gonna play Neon, like you might as well just play Jett instead. There's not really like a great reason to play Neon right now. Yeah. Now Raze, I think, is probably she's in the bottom of A. She's pretty good. She's viable on most maps except for... Actually, most maps in this pool she's viable on. Like Ascent, she's decent in ranked. Fracture, she's very good. Bind, she's very good. This map pool is very good for Raze, actually. I'm going to put her more at the top of A. But she's very good right now, especially if you master her satchels. Her satchels are definitely the most interesting part of her kit right now. But she's very good. Phoenix. Phoenix is in the bottom of B. His flash is extremely good, especially in lower ranks where people aren't as aware of Phoenix. As soon as you get into the higher ranks, as in like Immortal, people are much more aware of his flash and won't go into the flash zones as easily. But in lower ranks, he's very good if you know how to play him properly. His flashes are essentially just 2 free kills around, almost. But as soon as you get higher and higher, he gets worse and worse. And it's his other utility, his molly and his wall, it's very bad. His flash and his ult is extremely good, but the rest is it's bad. So I can't really put him higher than B because of that. Reyna's S plus, and ranked she's S plus, but I don't think she needs a nerf. The way that Reyna works, it's just so good for ranked. The idea of Reyna is just extremely good. But if you nerf her at all, then she becomes like completely irrelevant, especially in pro play and coordinated play. So I mean, she's already completely irrelevant, but she becomes even more irrelevant if you nerf her at all. So I think that Brandon's in such a weird spot because if you buff her, she terrorizes ranked, and if you nerf her, then she like becomes even worse in coordinated play. So I think she's fine where she is, but she is definitely an S plus tier agent. And finally, we come to Yoru. Yoru's a B tier. He's kind of. I'll put him in the middle. He'd be very good, but he's very like matchup dependent almost. Because if the enemies know how to play around Yoru, then he's terrible, and you can't get any value out of him. But if the enemies don't know how to play around a Yoru, then he's very good. It's kind of the reason why you can't make Yoru meta is because that's his whole thing is being not meta. Because as soon as he becomes meta, and people realize how to play around him, he's not any good. Because that's his whole thing is misdirection and not knowing how to play around him. But he's good. Is just kind of a matchup check. Some games you'll crush with him and you'll drop 30, and the other games you'll go with like 10 and 30. So, yeah, that's my tier list for ranked. If you disagree with anything, make sure to let me know in the comments. And yeah, see ya.